This week, Pureblind residents unite against a common enemy. A Raiju is reborn only to die again. Snuffed Out intercept a personal move-up. A disconnect results in major losses for one pilot. White Sky get dropped in on their drop. Something is happening in Omist again. Feythabolis new ownership is confirmed. Stainrus continue to be pushed out of Esoteria. Wrecking crew keep on wrecking supers. One of our drive-by supercarrier pilots gets an upgrade. Industrialists demonstrate that they are not mercenaries. And a scammer rinses Null-sec pilots in their own staging systems to the tune of 64 billion ISK. Hello pod people, I'm Frost and this is your weekly EVE Online update. Welcome back. So all kinds of things going on this week, but as always, before we jump into the news, first of all, I announce the winners of the Scope Syndication skin, which at the moment is the Kestrel. And going back to the 12th of April, Kevlar45 has come forward, so congratulations to Kevlar. And then from last week's episode, that's the 19th of April, Malkovic Ardran. So congratulations to both these pilots. And Morales, you need to get in touch with me, please. That's your YouTube name. You've not claimed your skin yet. So contact me on my Discord and I will sort that out for you. All right, so let's jump on with the news. As always, up into my little box. Here we go. We have a dot line in front of us. I'm already in Pureblind. Let me get moved back out. So we are going into Pureblind, and what we're going to be talking about in Pureblind is the Chinese time zone element of Fraternity are now attacking Bandalogs. So Bandalogs living in this area here. That's .ru all the way around here. And then there is a group or a number of groups within the Chinese time zone of Fraternity, which I believe are in this part of NPC space in Pureblind. And a non-invasion pact was in place between these two groups. It has now ended. And therefore the Fraternity pilots in the Chinese time zone are moving into Bandalog's territory, specifically going after their moons. Now, the thing that I really want to point out with this is I have 3 battle reports, and it's not so much the battle reports, but it's who's involved. So as you know, in Pureblind, we have Bandalogs, who I just shown. We then have We Form Volta, which is Greater Trash Community over here. Quote Alliance, which is part of Greater Trash Community as well. And then we have Brave, who moved in here a few months ago and who have these systems kind of that I'm surrounding in blue over here. So those are all the residents in Pureblind. Now, normally, Greater Trash Community, so We Form Volta, We Form Blob, Quote Alliance, Scumlords, etc., are neutral to Brave and to Bandalogs, and then obviously, so all these groups are essentially neutral to each other. But what we are seeing is we're seeing all of these groups unite against the push by Fraternity into these into Bandalog's territory. So my first battle report that I have here, this one was over a fight over an Athanor, this Athanor here. And the interesting thing here was that it started off, as I understand, with Fraternity bringing armor praxis and typhoons with apostle support. Bandalogs brought Serbs. Fraternity then reinforced with rattlesnakes and a Minakawa, which are down here. There we go. There's the rattlesnakes right here. And some nightmares as well were involved. And then Bandalogs reshipped to nightmares as well. But they're unfortunately, whilst they managed to save the Athanor in this particular instance, they came out a little bit worse on the BR, because Fraternity then came in with a Munin fleet down the bottom here to provide further support. As you can see then, the numbers ramped up very much in Fraternity's favour on this particular fight. And you can see, in fact, it goes up to 184 versus 74. But the important thing here is this was only Bandalogs fighting against Fraternity. This was kind of early on in the whole sort of aggression from Fraternity. Now, then we go to the iHub that was fought over from in D70-CO, which is a Bandalog system up here. Now, what we see now is we have Bandalogs, but then on their side we had Freeform Blob, We Form Volta. So Greater Trash Community sided with Bandalogs to fight against Fraternity. And then we had a fight over a Bandalogs Athanor. Now the Athanor was lost. In fact, there's 2 Athanors that were lost. Fraternity replaced Tataras in their place. But a Brave collective showed up, and Brave were actually on the side of Bandalogs fighting against Fraternity. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing all the pureblind groups kind of working together. Sorry, I forgot to put my phone on silent. Working together here to fight against this kind of fraternity incursion into their space. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's obviously some good fights going on here. And these groups, you know, it's a good job that Bannerlogs are getting kind of the help of Brave and Greater Trash Community, because it really does help balance up the numbers. As you can see here, it was like 104 to Fraternity, and then by the time you bring in Brave along with Bannerlogs, then you kind of got even numbers. And obviously if Greater Trash Community can be there at the same time as well, then that will help. Obviously the thing with Greater Trash Community is I don't believe that that's strong in the time zone that this is being fought in. This is in kind of Russian stroke Chinese time zones. So we're talking sort of early afternoon UTC to late morning UTC, or early morning UTC to late afternoon. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I'll be keeping an eye on Pureblind and keeping up to date. But at the moment, as we look, I think this system's always been held by Fraternity. This is the entrance into Tribute, so it's kind of always kind of a ping system for them. But it'll be interesting to see if any .ru, that's Bannerlog systems, actually get flipped or not in the coming week or so. All right, so that's about it for Pureblind. Then in terms of Tribute and Veil of the Silent, I talked about last week Destiny's Call and Lord of World Alliance being pushed out of Winter Coalition. I said that I didn't know whether Destiny's Call were USTZ or not. I have now found out they're a German alliance, so they're EUTZ. So I just wanted to basically clear that up. Now, something else that happened in Veil of the Silent, a Vindicator was caught, and this Vindicator was super blingy, so that's the reason for bringing it up. 23 billion ISK Vindi that was dropped by a single Varga. So that was kind of a solo kill mail by a Varga on a 23 billion Vindi with a pretty good drop as well. You know, we talked about the last couple of weeks, the loot ferry being pretty mean, but 15 billion dropped out of this, and it was officer mod gun, or kind of Dead Space and all kinds of kind of blingy stuff. I mean, you can check out the kill mail yourself if you want. But yeah, lots and lots of, there's some purple, some green and some blue. So there you go. So all kinds of different bits and pieces. But it was just more a case of a solo kill mail by a Varga on a Vindi that was worth a fortune. That was the piece of news there. Now, talking of expensive ships, I talked last week about a Raiju being destroyed in perimeter, being ganked by a Varga and some Lokis, with Von Hol being involved. There was a little bit more to this story that came out afterwards, that this Raiju pilot actually made a claim to get it reimbursed, and it was reimbursed by the game GMs. The pilot then boasted about this on Reddit, and it was then pulled. So it was decided that the reimbursement was an error. It should never have been given back. So basically this Raiju died, was born again, and then died. So instead of you only live twice, it's you only die twice with this Raiju, in terms of making a Bond reference there. All right, so there you go. So yeah, an interesting situation for that Raiju. Now let me have a look at what else we've got going on. Okay, then we're going to go over to Black Rise. Now, what happened is, I mentioned a little bit earlier that Lord of Worlds Alliance and Destiny's Call were pushed out of Winter Coalition. So a pilot from Lord of Worlds Alliance was attempting to extract their supers, and the collection was actually 2 Hells and a Nyx. There was also a Thani there, a Rapier and a Pilgrim, and they all got caught by Snuffed Out whilst jumping to an Astra House. So I have a video here. As always, I always link these videos in the description below, so go do and check it out. But essentially, when you jump in with supers and stuff, obviously it was on an Astra House, so you can't dock. You've then got that kind of 30 seconds where you are unable to tether, and that was enough for Snuffed Out to jump in, get some heavy dictors in there, get some points on the Nyx, the 2 Hells, and blap them inside of 2 minutes, basically. So this is the video that shows exactly what happened. Well put together video, this I have to say, from this particular creator. This is just Adwater Eve. Done a really good job of like just editing it down just to all the bits that you want to see, all the salient bits just being there. And I actually just saw Joan there just posting in local Whelp. Yeah, there was nothing to be done at this point. And it just shows how basically 90 billion ISK can be destroyed in the matter of seconds, basically. So yeah, so there you go. So that's basically what happened there. Yeah, tough call on that one. Never funny when that happens, and especially when you're moving kind of 3 supercarriers at the same time. Now, all sorts of other expensive stuff dying. So that was obviously like I said, on this battle report, we know this was close to 100 billion ISK with those 3 supers and the Thani, etc. But then in Abazon, so I talked about Abazon last week. Abazon seems to be popping up quite a lot at the moment. So the first one is this, which is also a 90 billion ISK loss. But this time it was over 4 jump freighters, so 4 arcs. So these 4 arcs actually jumped to the Astra House, so that was fine. They were able to dock and undock. But then what happened was that they warped to the gate to get into high-sec. Now at the time, Spectre Fleet were running a gate camp on the Abazon, the Shearer Gate in Abazon. And unfortunately for this pilot, they disconnected in warp to the gate. And rather than actually jumping into the gate, they actually had a bookmark at 0 on the gate. This is to stop being bumped off when you land on the gate. But unfortunately, you have to then manually jump all the ships through. And this case, it wasn't possible because there was a disconnect and the pilot lost 4 arcs. Now, whether these were reimbursed, I don't know, because that is a situation where they can be potentially reimbursed. But even then, it would only reimburse the hulls, not necessarily the contents, because if the contents drop, then they can't be reimbursed because the game masters will not duplicate assets in EVE. So there you go. So yeah, you can know this is a Spectre Fleet because Virion Stone Shard is one of the main FCs and leaders within Spectre Fleet, as I recall. So there you go. So that was pretty unfortunate. And then also in Abazon, we had a drop on a drop here. So essentially, I don't have all the details. I literally just have the battle report. Just looking at the battle report, it looks like it was initially a gate camp by this group here with this cool little icon of this kind of little fox. Deep Space Alliance. We had a golem, a couple of ravens, some praxis, etc., etc. And it looks like they got dropped on by White Sky. White Sky being, kind of very active in Abazon, and also, very well known as droppers and super hunters as well. And it looks like they dropped some dreads and a battle rork, and then it looks like Snuffed Out dropped a whole Black Ops fleet along with a whole bunch of revs. Or dreadnoughts, should I say, because I can see a few nags in there as well. So the end result, though, was a 108 billion loss for White Sky versus 26 billion for Snuffed Out and Deep Space Alliance. So there you go. So at least you get to know that when you jump through a gate into Abazon, that you may be a content generator, not in just your own ship being killed by a gate camp, but potentially by escalations that happen beyond that. All right, so pretty much it for the North for this week. I'm going to then cover the South, but as always, this is always a good time to break and do the giveaway. So I still have the Kestrel Scope Syndication skin for this month, and I think the keyword this week, so the way that it works is you have to put a comment in the YouTube comments down below with a keyword of my choosing. And the keyword is going to be drop. So make a sentence with the word drop. You have until 1800 UTC on Friday the 29th of April. In order to make your comment, I then do the draw sometime on Saturday. So please check your YouTube comment Saturday night or Sunday morning to see if you have won, and then get in touch with me through my Discord. And good luck for your Kestrel Scope Syndication skins. All right, so let's move on. Let's go back to Dotlan, and we're going to go to Omist. So Omist. Nothing ever happens in Omist. That used to be my saying, and then now I'm going to have to revise this because obviously we had Out of the Blue a few months ago, tried to move into Omist and failed miserably, unfortunately, because fire blobbed them and basically evicted them within the space of a week. But things are different this time. So if you remember from the last few weeks, the Imperium have been storming through Feythabolis, basically glassing Feythabolis, and we'll come back to Feythabolis in a minute. But rather than just going home, the deployment by Goonswarm appears to be continuing. And now they're rolling into Feythabolis. And as you can see, they've already reinforced a whole bunch of iHubs that belong to Star Trails Alliance. Star Trails Alliance had a few systems in Feythabolis. And then we have East Wind, who are over this side, who I believe are also renters in Fire Coalition. And but the main thing is obviously, like I said, we're seeing all these iHubs getting reinforced. And on top of that, I would assume all the structures are getting hit in your typical kind of glassing style. Now, the thing that makes this not just a haphazard thing, but definitely a continuation of the deployment is, if I can find the right battle report, which I think is this one. Yes, there we go. So, is that we have the Imperium here. No initiative, though, interesting. I don't know whether the initiative are continuing with this, because obviously the initiative were in Feythabolis. This particular battle report is purely the Imperium. But you could see, if we scroll down, that the capitals are here. So the Revs, the Naglafars, the Dreadnoughts, and the carriers have all made it into Omist. And you can see there's a ton there. Along with the Sleipnirs, which Goonswarm seems to be favouring at the moment, and obviously the obligatory Munins. And I don't know what this fight was over in Omist, but the losses were much more on the side of Fire Coalition. But really the main story here is the fact that Imperium capitals have now moved into Omist, and it looks like the glassing process will continue. So unless Fire Coalition put up a strong defense, then we're going to see a whole other region that belongs to Fire Coalition getting glassed. And then we're start to get closer to kind of what are considered by Fire to be their floodplains. So, Fire Coalition have Deterid and Innsmother as their kind of main home, along with Tenerifis, if you include Tyre, Tyre being Flying Dangerous, etc., Lollipop Monopoly, etc. And really, I suppose now that Tenerifis is no longer floodplains, because I can see XIX as well have quite a strong presence in here. So, and this is Absolute Will, who used to be a high-sec group and have now moved in and have become part of Fire Coalition as well. So the floodplains, the universe, Omist could possibly consider as floodplains, but once we start getting towards Tenerifis, Immensia, Deterid, or Innsmother, or Wicked Creek, or Scalding Pass, then that is pretty much Fire Coalition home territory. So we'll have to see, first of all, how this progresses through Omist, whether a defense is put up or not by Fire Coalition, and then whether it continues into Tenerifis, which would be the natural next progression for this push by the Imperium. Okay, so that's that. So then let's go on to Feythabolis. So Feythabolis, really it's just more a case of just confirming that Red Menace Coalition have definitely made this their home. There is just literally one system left now that belongs to Fire Coalition down the bottom. That's R97-CI. Saurian Advance, as you can see, who are part of Red Menace Coalition, have taken that constellation. Spaceship Family have now kind of settled themselves in the south. Red Alliance have obviously got these systems up here and are taking all of these systems over here. And then we have this one group who I know nothing about, called HiSec. Who are basically high-sec miners. As someone pointed out on my Twitch show, they took a wrong turn somewhere because they are most definitely in Null-sec. Maybe they've expanded their plans beyond their original name and have moved in. Now, I don't know whether this group is associated to Red Menace Coalition, whether they just moved in of their own accord. So if someone wants to get me up to speed on that, that would be great, so I can get everybody up to speed on it as well. And then obviously Cosmic Coalition, as we know, have now flipped sides from Fire Coalition and joined Red Menace Coalition. So there you go. So we weren't sure last week who was going to move in. Also worth mentioning, the Dracaris, who are part of Imperium, have also taken some space here as well. Obviously Dracaris are taking on quite a lot of people from the Bastion, and we'll come on to that a little bit later on. So there you go. No chance for any third parties to come in here. Basically, one of the coalitions that's already present in the south has just basically expanded into Feythabolis. Then we're going to go over to Esoteria, which is the current homeland of Red Menace Coalition. And for a long while, Stainrus held a stronghold over this section I'm kind of circling in pink. Then we talked about a few weeks ago how Triumvirate and CBA have moved into the area and are assisting Red Menace Coalition in pushing Stainrus back. And you can see now that Triumvirate have now taken, I think, these 3 systems in the last week. They took the system I was highlighting in blue the week before. So they are definitely pushing Stainrus back and being pretty successful at it. The thing of note here is I have a battle report again. This one for this, let me just go back, hang on. Oh, wrong one. Let me go back here, there we go. This is taking place actually in Stain. This is the gate that borders into the system that borders into Esoteria, which is kind of Stain being the homeland of Stainrus from the name. Going back to this battle report then, that's the Omist one. Oh, there we go. Have I lost it? I've lost it, haven't I? Yeah, let me do a quick cut and I'll bring it back up. Okay, right, so there we go, loaded again. Now, the only thing I really wanted to show with this was that the assistance of We Form Volta. So We Form Volta came to the assistance of Stainrus against Red Menace Coalition, Triumvirate and CVA. So interesting move there from We Form Volta. Yeah, just something to be noted. I don't know whether that was just simply just going down there for some content. But yeah, Greater, sorry, I should have said Greater Trash Community because I could see we've got Scumlords and Quote Alliance there as well. But basically they brought in a Legion fleet. I assume they came through a wormhole. As far as I know, Greater Trash Community are not deployed down in that area. So they may just had an opportunity to come and assist, and clearly there's some connection there between Stainrus and Greater Trash Community for them to bat phone Greater Trash Community. Okay, then big news. This is regarding drive-by. So obviously, you know, we're really familiar with a Ragnarok, with his Ragnarok, and a Hell, who is another character of a Ragnarok. And then we have Digbik Asami, who came to fame on my show for having a drive-by Wyvern of all things. So a Kaldari supercarrier. Well, Digbik Asami has upgraded and they can now claim having the most expensive drive-by supercarrier in the galaxy in the form of a Revenant. The Revenant being the Sancha Nation pirate faction supercarrier. And Digbik Asami in his Revenant got his first drive-by solo kill on a Rev that belonged to what could possibly go wrong in Esoteria. So there you go. So all the bling by Digbik there flying around in his Revenant doing solo drive-bys. So obviously a Ragnarok has been very successful and a Hell in surviving. Digbik as well, you know, has almost got caught once in some bubbles. I think he was the one pilot that didn't get caught in the bubbles up in, I think it was Vale of the Silent, or was in Fade, somewhere up north. But yeah, so there you go. Something to keep an eye out there, and we'll have to see if Digbik gets any more kills anytime soon with this Revenant, and whether it continues to be an Esoteria or whether that pilot moves around. Right, then I have a little bit of news. So obviously we're going to be talking about the group that used to be in Fountain, who are now shutting down, unfortunately. It's a sad loss, which is the Bastion. So the Bastion, as I mentioned last week, are closing their doors due to real-life commitments of the leader, Carneros. But the main thing I just wanted to point out here is that we could see that the vast majority of the groups are either going into Goon Swarm, who are primarily the English speakers, I would say. Obviously, there was a lot of groups that moved in from AOM, a Stroke Ranger Regiment, who moved into the Bastion. They are going over to Chakaris, who are basically primarily a Chinese-speaking alliance within the Imperium. And then we're getting a few people moving in to Get Off My Lawn as well. So didn't expect that. And it'll be interesting to see what the other groups do in the next week or two that the alliance is going to remain. But funnily enough, none moving into the initiative, even though they're actually right in the same region as the initiative. So the preferences being, obviously, like I said, Goon Swarm, Chakaris, and Get Off My Lawn. So there you go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some kills. So Wrecking Crew, it's like every week now. Wrecking Crew continue to kill supers. This one is a Nyx. Unfortunately for this pilot started bragging in local. They were cloaked up and were bragging that it was a bit late to launch probes, considering they were cloaked up. Unfortunately, the pilot was AFK for 3 years, forgot about mobile observatories, got decloaked and killed 7 minutes later. So yes, when you're going to fly or move your supers, you've got to get up to speed on the latest changes, and the cloaking changes are a nightmare for people moving supers. Then we also had a Ragnarok. So as well as a supercarrier, a Ragnarok was killed in domain. Once again, by Wrecking Crew. This time they brought out the big toys. They got out some Titans. Actually managed to get a Doomsday off as well. And this time the pilot did have the wrong micro warp drive. This is a capital micro warp drive, not a battleship micro warp drive, which you need. But plenty of cap boosters. Definitely would not have run out of cap. But unfortunately was not fast enough in getting away, primarily probably because this capital micro warp drive, and got caught by Wrecking Crew. So Wrecking Crew continue to be the top killers of traveling supers in the game at the moment. Then just another expensive kill that got my attention. This was a 33 billion ISK Orca that died in high sec to a gank. So to Telos and Catalysts, and the main reason for the high value of this Orca was a Abyssal Gila, or Gila Gila, right here. That no, that was the one that dropped. That wasn't the expensive one. So the expensive one didn't drop, which is the one right here, which as well as having kind of Abyssal mods on it. Also had almost 13 billion of chaotic exotic filaments, and another almost 1.75 billion of chaotic electrical filaments to just push that price up. On top of that, in the fleet hangar, there was a bunch of mutated drones, of which 12 dropped, all pushing on they don't have a value on the kill board. So very unfortunate. This Orca basically got ganked, and a lot dropped, but not that much. I mean, we're talking 6 billion. Like I say, if that Gila Gila that was the Abyssal Ratting Gila Gila had dropped, then that would have been quite the drop. Also the Ikitusa, which is quite a nice ship, expensive ship, unfortunately didn't drop either. Then we are going to talk about something that happened in Sync Liaison, also in high sec. And what's interesting about this one is this is a Raiju. And the reason why it is interesting is because if you look on the right hand side, you can see that this was killed by battle orcas, battle skiffs, and battle procurers. Now, I inquired as to the reason why, and as I understand, the group that owned this Raiju and two others that were destroyed in the same system of Bribeer, I think is how you pronounce it, Synthetic Strategy Nexus decided they wanted to claim ownership of this whole system. The locals didn't agree. The locals then attacked these Raijus, initially with marauders, and the defenders accused them of being mercenaries. And so in order to demonstrate that they were not in fact mercenaries, but industrialists taking offense at these Raijus being in this system, brought their battle fleet of battle orcas, battle procs, and battle skiffs to confirm they were indeed industrialists. And as you can see, there's quite a few orcas there, amongst other things as well. So an interesting little story there. There is a video as well, which confirms that you can see the procurers, looks like they had reps in there as well, command burst possibly, but they definitely had reps going on, as you can see, and these orcas just all shooting this Raiju. So not just Slice taking ownership of the battle mining ships apparently. Okay, then talking of ratting kills, not much to talk about really. Really down on raw calls. So only 7 raw calls destroyed in the last week compared to 18 the week before, and we had an average of about 12 over the last few weeks. And then in terms of ratting supers, we only got 3 ratting supers down. I think it was this one in Outer Passage, this one in Oasa, and I think April 18th was that one. Oh yeah, and this one as well. It would have been after my show. The others being obviously the 3 ships that were destroyed by Snuffed Out in their drop when the pilot tried to jump through the Astra House, no jump on the Astra House. And then finally the last one is the one we just talked about, which was caught by Wrecking Crew. So there you go. Now, the last thing I'm going to finish off, or the second to last thing I'm going to finish off on, is a scam. So what I got here is basically a pilot basically set himself up in multiple staging systems in Winter Coalition, Imperium, Fire Coalition, and Pandemic Horde, and successfully scammed in less than 2 weeks 64 billion from players in these staging systems. Now, the way that this scam was done was to take a commonly used ship that normally costs around 40 million. It started off with a Vexor, but then became Caracals. And the idea was to set up the first contract for 3,999,000 ISK and put 4 million in the description. So it's a great deal because the ship should be 40 million. It looks like the pilots made a mistake and only put 4 million. Then the remaining contracts were put up for 3,999,000,000, but also with a description of 4 million. And so therefore the purchaser assumed that the seller has made the same error as the first and quick click on the rest in order to grab a bargain. And instead of grabbing a 4 million bargain, ended up being scammed for the tune of 4 billion. And as you can see, this happened well over a dozen times. I don't have all of them here, but the total here comes to about 52 billion. The final tally as this pilot retired is 64 billion. And there you go. And under the names of Lee Dralig and Winterco, Laurel York in Imperium, Agim Kruger in Fire Coalition, and Lando Dralig in Horde. So there you go. So Jita is not the only place for scammers. Scammers are also very, very successful in staging systems. And this particular scammer just wanted everyone to know that it can be done and to demonstrate that they came up with the idea and was very successful with it. So there you go. All right, talking of, moving on to a very natural segue, I believe. It's worth mentioning as well, obviously it's the big news this week in terms of the latest drama from CCP, Plex and Omega price updates. I'm not going to go into it in detail. As you know, I leave that to like the Meta Show and Talking in Stations. You know, I'm sure they have plenty to say about it. Just to bring it to your attention, if you're not aware, prices are going up, varying between 30% for a 1-month subscription to 4% for a 2-year subscription. Obviously, lots of drama being created here. I see this primarily in marketing terms, in what we call marketing the shit sandwich. In that we had good news a few weeks ago, or just a week or two ago, about structure changes and reduction in capital build costs. That was great. Then we had the shit bit, which is basically the price hike. And then obviously in a week from now, we have FanFest, where some big news is going to be announced, hopefully to then create this upward trend again. So I'm sure you have lots of thoughts on this. You're welcome to catch up with me on my Twitch show and rage about it there if you want. But that's it for me for this week. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed it as always. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. And I will see you on the next show if I don't see you on my Twitch show on Friday at 2000 UTC. Thank you for watching. Bye.